and welcome to Gartner Live. My name is Chris Saunderson. I'm a Senior Director Analyst with Gartner. I'm also the North American Infrastructure Operations and Cloud Strategies Chair for the upcoming event in Las Vegas. Today, I'm going to share some insights with you about how infrastructure operations leaders and their teams can take advantage of the Infrastructure Operations and Cloud Strategies conference series to help them tackle the challenges of today, but also to take advantage of the opportunities of tomorrow. We hear from our clients a lot, and through our research, the I&O teams of today are challenged to not only accelerate the value that they deliver to their organization, but they're also looking to take advantage of the platform revolution. We, Gartner, seek to help those leaders and their teams to think about how they can transform their people, their processes, and their technology, innovate to meet the next challenges of today and the opportunities of tomorrow, and to manage technical debt and modernize their operations. We're helping our attendees at the conferences to execute now to keep pace with their organization and their business demands. And the reason that's important to you is that it is because your business is demanding more from you, more agility, more stability, more reliability, and more cost-effective use of its technology investments. But the macroeconomic environment, not to mention the geopolitical environment, a complex and diverse technology ecosystem that you have to deal with, and an increasingly acute talent shortage, these are all combining to make it very difficult to achieve the goals that you have and set new ones. So taking these challenges head on requires visionary leadership that can deliver platforms that are capable of the scale, of the innovation and the efficiency that your organization needs today and tomorrow. Now, we're going to cover 5 topics today, right? The first is maximizing value outcomes while mitigating costs and risks. The second is building relationships with your security teams. The third is defining the value of platforms and platform engineering. The fourth is modernizing IT operations management. And we'll finish off with the fifth of developing plans to drive more transformation. You can also join us for more personalized insight and interactive sessions on these topics and many, many more at the upcoming Gartner Infrastructure Operations and Cloud Strategies conference series taking place in London, Las Vegas, and Tokyo this year, and in Sydney in 2024. And lastly, before we get started, I would highly encourage you to add comments and questions in the box below the live throughout this activity or through this event, and we'll do our best to get back to you with answers. So let's get started with our first priority, which is maximizing outcomes while mitigating costs and risks. Now, I don't need to tell most people who are participating in this live that one of the big disruptors that we've seen from the way that our organizations are operating today has been cloud. It's certainly made a big dent in the way that our consumers, either of our organization or inside our organization, consume the services that we create. But it's also brought some additional challenges for the infrastructure and operations teams to help them drive internal service improvement, but also cost and risk management pressures that have evolved as we have adopted more and more cloud services. And what this has led to is a focus on FinOps and cost optimization. Now, we at Gartner, and you will hear this in the sessions at the event, we are very precise about the use of cost optimization because ideally what our organizations are asking us for isn't necessarily, are we spending too much? It's, are we getting value for the investment that we're making? Are we getting more value than the cost that we are spending? And that naturally leads us into the next question that comes after that, which is, are there options for us to A, see the value and the cost that we're incurring, but B, are there opportunities for us to apply techniques that allow us to vary the cost of those capabilities that we're consuming? Now, whether that is adopting a multi-cloud strategy, whether that is investing into tools and practices that allow us to see the costs that we're incurring, but also make recommendations for us to address those costs. Those are topics that we cover in great depth during those sessions, but they're top of mind for our attendees because it is what is asked of them by their organization. And the key in all of that is that maximizing value statement. It is irrelevant if you are able to effectively manage the cost of something if it isn't actually providing value to the organization. And similarly, if you can't deliver it, but if you can deliver the service, but you cannot secure it, and you cannot manage the risk that comes along with it, from certainly a security perspective, but reliability, availability, and transparency, then you're unable to assess the full cost of that activity. Therefore, you're not going to be able to assess whether we're getting value for the money that we're spending. So this is a large topic that we cover in quite a number of the tracks that are at the conference. And it very quickly gets us to the second imperative, which is building relationships with your security teams. Now, this is something that we have continued to hear from conference attendees, but also from clients and our research, that the infrastructure and operations teams of today are the organizations that are implementing the solutions that meet the mandates that come from their security and compliance and risk management teams. Now, that's an important relationship that exists in every organization today, but it's fraught with friction because we very rarely, or at least we need to spend time with one another to make sure that we're effectively collaborating, that we're co-creating solutions and not just throwing things over the wall. Now, making sure that that the security and the I&O teams are working effectively together is one thing, but it's very much the product of that is, are we able to effectively implement security, compliance, and risk management mandates in addition to the reliability, availability, and recoverability of the solutions that the organization is building and that the I&O team is managing on behalf of the organization. Being able to effectively build that collaborative working agreement between those two organizations means that we end up being a better organization as a whole. Now, from the conference perspective, this has been an increased ask from our attendees, both from the information security side, but also from the infrastructure and operations side. And part of the reason that there's been that we've been bringing content to this conference is because we're helping equip those attendees with not just the technologies that can be used to address those mandates, those requirements, and the needs of the organization, but also to help educate, inform, and equip the infrastructure and operations teams to be a more full participant in co-creating the solutions that are needed to ensure the security and the compliance and the risk profile of the solutions that we deliver on behalf of our organizations. Now, one of the things that has come into focus here from an organizational perspective has been the idea of platforms and platform engineering, and more specifically defining the value of platforms and platform engineering. We, Gartner, have been watching the development of platforms in the broader sense for a number of years now. And what we are seeking to do with sessions around this topic is to help attendees not just understand what platforms are and how they can be applied to the way that they deliver their services, either by self-service or by API invocation. So being able to interact via an API with a platform in order to get services, but also the way that organizations structure, equip, and upskill their teams to support platform approaches and deliver those solutions, the platform solutions, to those end consumers with as little friction as possible. Now, in complement to that is the practices and principles that allow the infrastructure and operations team to embed into the products that they are creating and delivering through the platforms those security, compliance, risk, and cost optimization mandates that come from other parts of the organization. So I&O plays a critical role in not just defining what a platform is, but also ensuring that it meets all of the stakeholders inside the organization's needs and that it is visible to them. Now, of course, I&O plays a critical role as a provider to those platforms in order to enable things like technology lifecycle management, to do cost optimization, but also to take advantage of more and more services that come out of providers such as the cloud providers, but also to enable things like edge computing, distributed workloads, and really to enable the organization to deploy workloads where they need to be, both today, and then relocate them to where they need to be tomorrow as the business demands change, as the technology demands change, or indeed as security and compliance may require them to change tomorrow. Now, primarily the focus is on the developer experience, but as we will cover in the sessions that support this particular initiative around platforms and platform engineering, it's also about the skills, the practices, and the investments that the organization, the infrastructure and operations organization, needs to make to enable platforms and platform engineering. Now, quite obviously, when we change the way in which an organization delivers its services, we need to change the way in which we manage those services. And that's where we get to our fourth topic of modernizing IT operations management. The way that we've been delivering systems and managing them and assuring them to date has been outside of the product and platform approach. So when we transform the way that we deliver services away from a linear set of things, I do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, over to more of a self-service activity where a developer or an end user, or indeed ourselves, can simply request a service. We are taking on automation. We're taking on automation to deliver those services, but we should also be taking on more and more automation to help manage those systems so that the human effort is minimized, but not necessarily eliminated, and that we get more predictable, stable, reliable, and secure operating environments. We also need to extend this beyond the traditional realm of the infrastructure and operations team. So we need to be a part of hyperautomation initiatives. We need to be contributing to the things that the broader organization is doing from an automation perspective as we build our own capabilities and disciplines inside our organization. We should also be extending this out to the digital workplace to make the experience of the end user in terms of using the technology that we are providing to you, desktop, laptop, mobile device, access to cloud services, access to software as a service applications, as seamless as possible. But then also being able to use that to modernize the way that we manage those endpoints so that we can be more proactive in providing end user support. All of this is wrapped up in modernizing IT operations management. And it would be remiss if we didn't point out here that this is one of the most natural points at which generative AI can be inserted into the infrastructure and operations realm. Now, whether that's enabling a self-service chatbot that can actually help an end consumer identify and resolve a problem, or whether it is supporting a network or systems or even a database administrator with being able to more effectively write automation with less overhead, that then allows them to focus their effort on the important parts of automation, not the plumbing. That's critical. And that's the opportunity that we're going to surface during the sessions around operations management, as well as on the exhibitor floor, to help organizations not only see the opportunity that generative AI in complement to automation platform approaches and building the new ways that organizations work, not only providing it there, but then turning that into pragmatic approaches, things that you can do on Monday or in the next 90 days or in the next 180 days. Ways to think about adoption of new, not just generative AI, but new approaches and new technologies. And this type of operations management as a whole is all about enhancing our operations. Are we able to continue to deliver the services that our organization needs? And can we translate that into ensuring that the people that we have are able to not only sustain the skills that they have, but learn new ones and focus on more value-added work, the things that we need humans to do. Now, last but not least is the fifth imperative for our organizations, attendees of the conferences, Gartner clients, and certainly all of you who are watching this live. And that's developing plans to drive more transformation. Now, transformation is a tricky word, but I really want you to think about this in two horizons. The first is, how does the infrastructure and operations team transform themselves? So how do we identify the technical, but also people skills that we need to either broaden the use of inside our organization, potentially develop or acquire, and how can we use them most effectively in support of all of the things that we've been talking about up until now? But in complement with that is the change to the leadership that we need to develop. The visionary leadership that I referred to in the opening isn't something that magically, that people inherently know and know how to do. It takes effort. It takes transformation. It also takes the combination of the changes that you're making to the rest of the organization to not just set direction, but to help navigate through the waters that you have to pass through in order to get to the destination. And that also means changing the leadership yourselves. So that can mean things like the operating model of the infrastructure and operations team. It can also mean the way in which the teams themselves are structured, the incentives that go along with those people, along with the people that make up those teams, but also things like giving latitude for innovation and being open to ideas for more efficient or more effective ways of either delivering services or working with the security teams or managing the systems that we run on behalf of others. So that's the first horizon to think of. And that's really what the Transforming Leadership Skills and Organization track is all about. It's about helping leaders, whether they are official leaders inside an organization or leaders in waiting inside the organization, to develop those skills, to develop the roadmaps and develop the strategies to not just transform the way that the organization works, but also to transform the people into those effective resources that are needed to deliver all of the imperatives now of the I&O organization. Now, the second horizon, though, is the ability of the infrastructure and operations team to be a part of the broader organizational value proposition. So while it's all well and good that we focus on cost optimization and service delivery and security and risk management, all of those things are important, but they're what's expected of us. Now, there are new ways that we need to work in each of those, but we're expected to do those things as infrastructure and operations professionals. But it's not enough. The ideal here and the goal here is to be a participant in those broader organizational activities. Hyperautomation is an example. Hyperautomation has a very simple premise, which is we are going to mature the way in which we use automation inside our organization for business process transformation, from automating the tasks that people do to improve velocity and quality and repeatability, through process orchestration so that we're able to more fully reflect the business process as an orchestrated workflow, to cross-domain orchestration, where now I can connect the customer service activities that are done interacting with our customers all the way through to the CRM system or even into the trouble management system and escalations and the like, with as few human hands as possible, all the way up to being able to invent new ways of doing business and reinvent the ways that we do business today. And that's tremendous opportunity for the infrastructure and operations teams who are developing the skills, the competencies, and the technology foundations through platforms, through the cost optimization and value delivery disciplines that they're developing. They all become contributors to that much broader organizational transformation that is top of mind for your peers and for your leadership. So part of the reason why we focus so much on driving more transformation is that it is vital that we transform ourselves, but we also have to participate more in the broader organizational transformation, the disruption that's going on inside our business or inside our organization. That's the thing that we need to be focused on participating in, because we bring value to that. We bring value in the solutions that we deliver. We bring value in the stability, the security, the availability, the agility that we enable. And if that's visible to our broader organization, then our value becomes much clearer to the organization. So that's about all we have time for today. Please continue to add your questions and comments in the chat, and we'll work to respond to those. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight into these topics that we're going to cover at the conference. If you want to keep learning about these topics and have the opportunity to meet with Gartner experts and your peers, you can absolutely join us at the IT Infrastructure, Operations, and Cloud Strategies Conference to learn more. And ideally, if there's a conversation that's going on in the LinkedIn comments below, please keep going. One of the most powerful things that we can do is connect our peers. You don't just have to hear it from us, but hearing it from your peers is just as useful. And Gartner Live will be back again soon. And thank you for attending, and enjoy the rest of your week.